Jeff, Jeff, Jeff. Jeff, 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 Jeff. Jeff, Jeff. Jeff, Jeff. Jeff.
Jeff Stein's our national and presidential expert, noted author. You can find his books at your favorite book retailer, the Iowa Politics Report and the Iowa Business Report, a very solid Iowa Business Report. Come to us from KXEL Cedar Falls, Waterloo, where Jeff is currently located. Hi, Jeff.
Is the air conditioning in your studio any better than it is in mine?
This TV behind me radiates about 9,000 degrees. And so I've got you should see my back looks like Lorenzo Lamas. I mean, it is really, I'm tanning it here. So like the front of it, my shirt is like relatively dry. The back of my shirt looks like we're on a stair climber for the last 3 hours.
I was waiting to see what part of Lorenzo Lamas you were going for.
Yeah.
Because it's not the Renegade era hair.
Oh, of course not. But I look better, man.
But the tanning, I see, it's the tanning. Okay. No,
the supple skin. I mean, I would have gone with the Wrath of Khan thing, but I think that it's kind of lost on some people nowadays.
We are so deep in the weeds. I have virtually no idea what you're talking about. I thought dropping a Renegade reference was pretty good.
Okay,
so.
there you go.
All
right. So first, let's get to what was, obviously a incredible, serious moment on Saturday. The attempted assassination of Trump. First of all, your thoughts what was going across your mind when you were watching that unfold?
Well, I was surprised. And the reason I was surprised was the fact that these things, as I had understood them, were very carefully orchestrated, and you had to be in line and be wanted and go through all of these things. And so it was surprise. And then when you hear very quickly that the shot came from where it did, and the shooter was who he was, and all the rest, forget about fault. I'm just saying that's the stunning part. And where it broke down, I don't know. And it is far too soon for anybody to start putting two and two together and coming up with what they think is four. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a lot of that all around. But there are issues. And if it's not resolved quickly, anyone who currently has Secret Service protection should be concerned. Anyone.
My theory is, and this is the only, because that roof being unattended is inexcusable. That just, as a military guy, that's insanity that you left that place like that open for a gunman to get up onto.
Yes.
The theory I have is that the police, the local police, the Secret Service, everyone here had bought into this idea of the typical liberal threat. A black man, an immigrant, a Muslim, Antifa, pro-Palestine, that was going to be it. And the fact is that they were so focused on trying to find their stereotypical villain that the 20-year-old white kid, NRA supporter, Second Amendment extremist, carrying a gun around outside of a presidential rally never triggered their warning signals. And that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, and I'm not going to necessarily go along with the full depiction that you just gave. However, I think I saw today that he was caught going into the perimeter area with a scope.
Yes. It was a distancing. It was a distancing meter, one of those things where you can basically hold it there and you can determine the distance to a target.
So when that is found and they say, you really shouldn't stay, you should leave, that's a good response. But the second response is, let's have someone with handcuffs have a conversation with you about why you need a distancing meter at this event. I mean, it's and that's why I say I'm not blaming. And again, the heroic individuals who dove onto the president's body, who dove on the bodies of others who were in harm's way, some of the media right there in that bunker, as they call it. I mean, the people on the ground, you cannot say enough about their dedication. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I've people that they report to, however, put them in a horrendous and, in one case, fatal situation.
It was very disheartening to see how many people. Someone said to me there was at least 1,000 videos on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat of people instantly threatening, fine, Democrats, civil war it is, you're ready, we're going to kill you. Then comes out the truth about this kid. Republican, registered Republican, voted in 2022. Dad is someone the Trump campaign or the Republican Party had on their radar just as a supporter. Conservative town. Most of the people that they've talked to in his class, very conservative kid, ran Republican circles, didn't shy away from that. He's wearing an extremist Second Amendment shirt there. It does lead me, and once again, I still have yet to see anything that contradicts this. It doesn't make a lot of sense outside of if this was one of those kids who said, fine, if I'm going to be famous, I'll rather be infamous than famous. And I can do it that way. And you create a historic name for yourself because you do something like that. That's about the only dang thing I can think of that why somebody who clearly was within the Republican fold would try to kill the president, or the former president.
He may not have been in the Republican fold in this respect. Just because he was a registered Republican, I mean, how many registered Republicans voted against Trump in primaries? A lot. We've talked about that. How many of them were Haley supporters? How many of them were people from other parties crossing over? The mere fact that he was a registered Republican and may have voted, we don't know how he voted. Okay. And so that part didn't throw me. I don't care about that part. The now found to be erroneous part about him giving money to progressive causes.
Yeah.
Don't care. I mean, there's no pattern with that.
And by the way, and the people that bought that one, if you looked at it for 2 seconds, the fonts didn't match. So clearly someone put that out there to try to make it seem like it, and it somehow garnered traction.
Well, what I'd heard was that it was somebody with the same name.
In Pittsburgh.
But they didn't look any deeper. And it's like, come on. I mean, this is the problem with jumping to conclusions. For crying out loud, within 2 hours, one of these news sources was saying it was a Chinese national.
Well, but here's what
At the same time, though, that somebody was trying to spread that, the Daily Mail had a photo of the young man's corpse, and it was out on social media. You could tell he was not a Chinese. I mean, it's just, that's why everybody just needs to take a break, and everybody's calling for everybody's resignation. How about we proactively figure out how to make sure this doesn't happen to Joe Biden in Las Vegas today? Well, how this doesn't happen to anybody else?
I'm going to bring up a thing I brought up yesterday about this, and this is why. No, and by the way, this kid was Republican. I mean, like I said, all of his school friends are saying he was a bit of a loner, falls into that category. Once again, part of an extremist Second Amendment group. There is all the signs there that there's not anything else that contradicts that on any kind of large scale. So this kid was clearly there, and I had a Republican friend say to me, what scares him is that this is not something he'd ever thought of. He'd never thought of, and now we have this guy out in Milwaukee who shows up at one of the barricades wearing a mask with a loaded gun, and he's like, you kind of get the idea that, there's someone from the left who's going to attack you. And now the question I have is, how many guys like Crooks are out there right now from the right who either hoping to push a civil war forward are willing to try to take out Trump, or just for that celebrity to cause sort of thing, like it looks like Crooks might have been doing? How many are out there? And I think that's it's interesting to see a little bit of reflection on this, that maybe that all this fear, loathing, guns are great, this might have backfired a little bit.
Well, I don't know everything you're talking about with regard to his Republican or Second Amendment affiliations because I've not studied it, haven't paid attention to it. So I'm not going to dispute it. I just don't know it. The original stuff about, his voter registration, shut up. Who cares about the voter registration? If you've got more stuff, that's all fine. But the point is, it can be, and this is the point you're making, and it's an excellent one, it can be anybody. It can be anybody. For example, you've got a lot of people in the Republican Party who would just as soon it not be Donald Trump as the standard bearer. You've got a lot of people in the Democratic Party who would just as soon it not be Joe Biden for a whole host of different reasons we're talking about. If it looks like all you have to do is show up and wave at your friends who call out to you by name, and you can set up a position, that's what's hideous. That's what's frightening, because it could come from any source at any time. And in fact, I had yesterday on the radio program, there's a fellow who is a publisher, and he's also the head of the RFK Super PAC. And I said, How do you feel now about the Secret Service protection? Mr. Kennedy's had his own detail. He said, it's a really good question. And I think they're having conversations about, don't just send your own people home. Mm-hmm. This is just frightening. And again, not the agents on the ground, the different situation.
Trump comes off of this. He does his fist pump, which once again was actually another failure by the Secret Service. I remember, didn't they break Reagan's ribs when he chucked him into a car? Do you remember that?
Yeah, either that or they thought they were. Yeah, because, immediately it was in the car and they did not know that he'd been hit. And when there was blood, they thought it was a punctured, from a rib. Absolutely right.
They basically, you're supposed to grab him. He does his fist pump out there. The Republicans, the Messiah's return, that sort of thing. Here's the thing that's interesting with the RNC. If Trump, and I said this morning, if Trump would have come in, if the Republicans would have come in and saying, you know what, dump all the bad Biden jokes, dump all the bad things. We're the unifying party. We're doing this. We are above this. We're going to go with this. I would have said, boy, this is big trouble for the Democrats because it looks like you've had an epiphany. You're rising above it. You're looking for middle ground. And the Republicans just can't do this because the snark, the pettiness, the meanness, that's just part of their id now, man. I'm watching speeches and they can't, and Joe Biden's wearing an adult diaper. And you're like, okay. But yet that gets the biggest applause in the crowd. And as I said, it's like, if you're looking for the middle ground, I just don't know if you're finding it there in any capacity.
Well, I believe you can see a difference in Trump himself as he interacts with the crowd and sits there. Now, depends on what he says tomorrow night, okay? I see somebody who is very demure. Could be pain meds, could be a near-death experience. Okay, I got
to imagine that hurt like heck to get the top of your ear blown off, man. Dude, that's got to hurt.
You think much?
Yes, but you brought up a very good point. Because he hasn't done much speaking, he hasn't done much there. It's very realistic and very understandable. He might be on pain medication right now, and so it will be interesting to see what kind of speech he does give tomorrow.
He's 78 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And to your other point, yes, he went down, but then they pounced on him again. I think he's having a hard time getting up and down out of those stupid chairs. I mean, it looks like a bowling. Well, it is Milwaukee. It looks like a bowling alley there with the chairs.
Rudy Giuliani got bowled a gutter ball yesterday. If you didn't see that.
Well, no, I missed it actually.
But he went down. He didn't realize there was that little lip on the side like a bowling lane.
No, I missed that. It's not Rudy's month. But, it's like some of us, as we get older, it's like, grab the arms of the chair. Come on, Grandpa, let's get up. And that's not like him. But it also occurs to me, he's been wearing a bulletproof vest all along, I have to assume.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's enhanced now? And so he's probably wearing body armament. Plus, they could have screwed up his back or God knows what when they took him they jumped on him and then ripped off his shoes. Help me with this.
Yes.
When the president is shot or you think he's shot, whose assignment is it to take off his shoes and throw them to the side? I don't understand that to this day. And I'm being very serious.
If you're carrying him, yes. If you're carrying him, that makes sense. But you're then all of a sudden we're taking your shoes off. Now we're going to have you walk across this gravel road.
Well, it was the odd thing is the man's just been shot. Think whatever you will of the man. The man's just been shot. And he says, get my shoes. You have to worry about your footwear at that point. I didn't get it. The only thing I think of is for transportation to carry him. But I'm also thinking, how heavy are the damn shoes? Well, they can't be that heavy. Okay. But all of that aside, here's what they didn't do that they should have. They pre-taped a lot of segments that run in the arena.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you watch C-SPAN, which is what I do, because I don't need to have the dipping in and out. I want to see the actual speeches, like when you and I were kids. Well, the bottom line is they're showing some of those, and it's Trump being snarky.
All right, hold on a second. I'm going to let you finish that thought when we come on back. Jeff Stein joining us. We'll talk about that, and also the RFK Jr. thing. We'll talk about that as well. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
you gotta show up if we're gonna blow up. Come and hold your torches in the sky until we light up. No matter what they told us, nothing's gonna hold.
Broadcasting in Chicago on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the afternoons on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Jeff Stein joining us here. Jeff, once you get back to that point, you're talking about at the RNC, and this is pretty common for both sides. They'll have these recorded packages that they air kind of during the show to kind of keep the show going, kind of like we're going to have the opening ceremony of the Olympics. We see it on TV, but there's a constant presence there. That's the kind of what you want. You want to have the people that are there constantly entertained for a few hours, and that they were doing that, and you were kind of surprised about that.
Well, no, and I apologize for not looking at the clock. Well, what they do is when there's not something on the stage, you want people in the auditorium have something to look at. And they have a big get out the vote thing that Trump has voiced. Well, he did it before, obviously. And he talks about Crooked Joe and the Democrats, the only thing they can do is steal elections. I mean, it's not dialed back. The temperature is not lower on that. And so what I'm kind of surprised at is the whole let's dial it back and let's talk about unity has more credibility if you start by removing the incendiary videos that you are feeding to the base.
Yep.
Now, again, we all see them. But again, and that may be a detail. See, here's the thing. I would have given you the first night, right? I mean, they're preloaded into the computer. They're firing. Somebody is sitting there and going, oh, geez, we missed that. But it was on the second night as well.
Yeah.
So it's hard to miss the second night.
Well, and you probably should have thrown Matt Gaetz out of there fairly soon. I mean, but the Matt Gaetz story of the week. What's that?
He's speaking tonight, and I'm sure you're going to be watching with popcorn. But so Kevin McCarthy, explain to me why Kevin McCarthy is on any television channel. I don't care who it is. I mean, he shows up on Fox. He's on CNN. Please leave us alone. But in any case, Kevin McCarthy's on the floor doing a live interview on CNN. Key phrase is live.
About unity. About unity. About unity.
The man who was cast aside in a coup, Matt Gaetz comes up and interrupts and says, hey, Kevin, when are you speaking? Oh. So, of course, Kevin McCarthy is not speaking, and Gaetz is. And it's like, wow. Petulant child much.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care what you think of any of the particulars. It's like, and I don't care that you interrupt his TV hit on CNN. Okay, whatever. But when the jab is, when are you speaking? Oh, that's right. You got deposed. Oh, my God. Stop it.
Prior to the assassination attempt, there was that we started seeing polls coming out that the numbers hadn't shifted really at all from that debate. No,
that they hadn't. Not a bit.
Which was very interesting, which means basically this country is pretty entrenched. Now, that being said, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump has that call for whatever reason they decided to leak the video of it, where Trump is approaching him, basically, get out, endorse me, and there's an implication of possibly something within the administration. And the argument people have said is, well, because, they just want to kind of unify the thing, because their argument is Biden people don't like him. The problem is here's this. If he was actually taking votes away from Biden, Trump wouldn't want him out of this race. Am I wrong about that?
You're basically right, except the only thing is I don't think we know exactly how some of this cuts.
Yeah.
I think in one respect, if you clear the field, then you don't have to worry about it. But to your basic point, if this was a situation where it was very clear, okay, if this was 1912 and Teddy Roosevelt is your third party candidate, well, who was he taking votes from? William Howard Taft, obviously. And then Wilson gets in. That's the prototypical example of third party candidate derailing. If you knew that RFK Jr. was siphoning enough votes from Joe Biden, you're Trump. You're sitting there going, may I donate to your super PAC?
Well, yeah, they would be running ads for him. They would be basically trying to make that larger.
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to think about, and I take a shot on this, and I think it's going to be correct. Name, if I'm going to put one policy issue with RFK Jr., what's that policy issue right now?
COVID.
Anti-vaccine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The anti-vaxxers, those aren't liberals. I mean, not saying there aren't a few in there.
I know. I know.
So I'm thinking that this is almost an admission. Yep, we're running numbers, and this is it. Maybe their numbers are showing Trump is ahead, and it gets really close with RFK Jr. in there, or maybe he's behind, and RFK Jr. is not helping him. But I'm going to get my gut feeling is the reason they want RFK Jr. out of there is that he's hurting Trump far more than he's hurting Biden.
At the very least, it's a wild card, and if you could control that situation, more the better. Sure. By the way, I thought of you during the benediction at night one of the RNC. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
This is where the clergy, and I don't know what denomination, he was wearing a collar, does a Trump impression before he does the benediction, with Trump sitting there. This is going to be the greatest benediction ever. I mean, it was something very close to that, and I'm howling, and then I'm thinking, McNeil does a better Trump than this guy.
Hello.
See, there you go. That's it right there.
Real quick here, we got about a little more than a minute or so. Now you have Adam Schiff now coming out talking about this, and I just said this before you came on. I said, okay, he had a bad debate performance. He's old. We both all knew that. If there is something else you guys are aware of, you need to stop dancing around this and put it out there. Because George Clooney told me so it's not resonating with the Biden supporters right now. And all you're doing is taking it. You should be taking shots at the Republicans right now. You should not be sitting there beating down on Biden on this week.
Today is what? July 17th?
Yeah.
The election's November 5th.
Yes.
Have candidates ever been down and then come back?
Yes.
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 So the point is, it looks like Biden won't win in November. We got to get rid of him. Really? In July. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. And so to your point, if you've got more than, Trump might win if Biden's the nominee, how about you beef up the campaign as opposed to getting rid of the person who won last time? Makes no sense, and it depicts panic.
Well, it screams panic. It just screams panic at this point. And like I said, I mean, it's not like you guys didn't have the chance. I'll have to ask you, I'm wondering if this is about 2028, and they're just kind of looking at this already saying, I want to be the first in line at that point. So we'll have to save that for another time.
It's all panic for right now.
It is panic for right now. Jeff Stein, once again, the Iowa Politics Report. I'll post it a little bit later on. Thank you, Jeff. Chicago, have a good one. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Hour 2 up next.